Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Road Coach Podcast, the show where I teach you what I've learned over the years from living on the road way too much, so that you can learn from my research and my mistakes and not only survive, but thrive well out of your element. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition just in general. When you're on the road, obviously, it's very, very difficult to eat well because you are constantly eating at restaurants typically, or you're eating on planes or in hotels, and the nutrition's obviously not great. So rather than get into what the best things are to eat or the best places to eat or how to break down your diet or anything like that, I just wanted to start with some basic tools that I use to evaluate what I'm going to eat. So the biggest thing that I would say I figured out a few years ago from being on the road so much is when talking about macros, and if you don't know what macros are, they're the basic building blocks of food: proteins, carbohydrates, fats, that give you energy, right? So carbohydrates and protein on average per gram will give you about 4 calories worth of energy, and fat per gram will give you about 9 calories per gram of energy. So when we're talking about macros, and when people say you need to consider your macros and make sure you get your ratios right, there's a very simple way that I use to calculate what to eat in any given meal or on any given day to help make sure that regardless of whether I know the overall nutritional value of something or whether I know exactly what's in something, I kind of have a baseline that keeps me in check and not overeating useless calories, right? So when it comes to these macros, protein is the most important macro that's tied to satiety. Okay, satiety meaning being full. And the reason for that is our hormones inside our gut, when it starts to break them down, they're the ones that react to our brain to say we've had enough food. Protein does that better than fat, better than carbohydrates. And that's why you can sit on the couch and smash a family bag of chips and eat 1,500, 2,000 calories, and then 20 minutes later be hungry again, because there's very little protein in it, so you don't feel full, you don't reach satiety. Now, on the flip side of that, if you sat down and just had a plate full of chicken breast, for example, there is no way you would be able to eat 1,500 calories. You would feel very full way before you hit that calorie mark, and you would feel full for hours afterwards, because that's almost pure protein. So how do I do this when I'm on the road, making sure that I'm always kind of staying within balance with my macros without really knowing where I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat, or who I'm going to be with when I eat, etc. Other influences that may come up, maybe beers are involved or something like that, where you have less control over your nutrition and you're not really sure what you're eating. So what I figured out a long time ago, I shouldn't say a long time ago, a few years ago, is that if you break down your macros in a ratio to calories, and specifically protein, it really helps you stay in check no matter what you're eating, okay? So I've got a calculator up here just from my computer. Let's say, for example, that a typical 4-ounce chicken breast, we'll say, has, I think it's about 21 grams of protein, okay? Don't worry about the math here. The example is just to show you how I do this mentally. So let's say we have 21 grams of protein total, and that same 4-ounce chicken breast is probably about 110 calories, okay? So if you divide the 21 grams of protein by the 110 calories, that gives you a ratio of 19%, okay? If everything you eat, regardless of what it is, you take the grams of protein divided by the total calories that are in that particular meal or snack or whatever that you're eating, and that ratio stays above a certain level, it is next to impossible to overeat, regardless of what it is. And here's why. If you want to, let me back up here. That ratio for me is about 7.5%, which is not that difficult to achieve, okay? So if I take, for example, I want to eat 150 grams of protein, which is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If I stay 150 grams divided by 0.075, which is 7.5%, you'll see that I can do that in 2,000 calories. I challenge you to eat 150 grams of protein in a day and still be hungry afterwards. Okay? Now, if you keep the ratio even higher, then you can eat the protein that you need to feel full and to be able to have enough energy to get through the day and to continue to build muscle if that's what you're trying to do, or at least not lose muscle. So let's say, for example, you keep that ratio to a 10% ratio of protein to calories. Well, now you divide that. It's pretty simple math, but you divide that 150 by 0.1, and you can do 150 grams of protein with only 1,500 calories. So you can eat tons of protein, feel extremely full, but still be in a calorie deficit. And this doesn't require that you pick out every single ingredient of every food. You can literally just look at how much protein is in there versus how many total calories, and it'll get you to the right spot every single time. Once you start doing this more and more, you'll start to learn just intuitively what's good to eat and what's not good to eat. Okay, so when they give you that pack of pretzels on the plane, yeah, it's only 50 calories or 100 calories or whatever, but there's virtually no protein in it. So it's a complete waste when it comes to nutrition for you. I shouldn't say it's a complete waste, but pretzels are a complete waste. Carbs will still give you energy, but it's quick burn energy, and it doesn't really help you feel full or get the other nutrients that you need to thrive and to feel good. Okay. So the reason I start there is I just want everyone to understand how I calculate my protein ratios versus calories, so that I can look at a meal and I can sort of pick and choose what I eat without really knowing, exactly what the makeup of that particular meal is, especially at a restaurant. It makes it a lot easier. Now, a really good app that I'm sure people have heard of is MyFitnessPal. This is free. You can throw it on your phone. I really like using this. I'm using it on my desktop right now just so that I can show you guys. If you're listening to this in audio only, I highly recommend you check out the YouTube channel. It's called The Road Coach, where these videos are live, so that you can see exactly what I'm doing on my computer, because I always share my screen, and you can understand sort of what I'm pointing at and clicking on and things like that. You can see the resources that I'm using rather than just listening to me talk. Okay, so the first thing when it comes to nutrition, super basic. I'm not going to get into intermittent fasting. I'm not going to get in exactly what nutrients to eat. I'm not going to get into supplementation or anything like that in this episode. It's just a very, very basic how to eat better when you're on the road and things are uncertain. Okay, so start with that ratio. Grams of protein divided by total calories, and keep that ratio above 7.5. You will not be able to overeat. I can almost guarantee it. Okay, so now the question is, how do we figure out what those foods are, and how do we start to learn what foods will fall into that ratio? So if you use MyFitnessPal, you can simply go add food at any sort of meal, and they've got literally everything listed pretty much for every chain restaurant, for every supplement, and then just like basic food like apples, oranges, all that kind of stuff is in there. So like I said, let's say we're eating skinless, boneless chicken breast, because that's what I started my example with. So skinless, boneless chicken breast. If you look for these check marks, they're usually verified as being properly recorded. So here's a Kroger skinless, boneless chicken breast for 4 ounces. If I click that, and I go add food to diary. So this is a 4-ounce chicken breast. For those of you that are new to figuring out your food, 4 ounces is typically about the size of the palm of your hand and just under an inch thick. So 4 ounces is not a massive chicken breast. If you're getting a chicken breast that's like this at a restaurant, like call it 4 inches by 6 inches, that's probably more like a 6 or 7 ounce chicken breast, maybe even an 8 ounce chicken breast sometimes. But most restaurants now, especially if you get like chicken on a salad or something like that, it's usually a 4 ounce to 5 ounce serving. Okay, so we can add that meal to our diary, and it will literally tell you here. So I wasn't far off, and I haven't done this in a long time, but it's 22 grams of protein for 110 calories. Okay, so again, take that 22 grams of protein over 110 calories. Oops. 10 calories, and you'll see that's a ratio of 20%. It's 20%, and you'll see actually if you look at boxes of chicken, like frozen chicken that's just skinless, boneless, no water added, pure chicken at the grocery store, it usually says 20 or 21% meat protein, because that's how much protein is in chicken as a percentage ratio of calories. Okay, when you see chicken at the store that's frozen in a box and it says like 16 or 15 or 17% meat protein, that means they've taken the raw chicken breast and they've injected water and salt into it to make it weigh more while not giving it any more nutritional value. That's why when you get chicken breast that's a lot cheaper typically and it's 16% meat protein, by the time you cook it, it looks like it's half the size of when you started. So it's just a simple trick that the food processors use to give more weight to their chicken so that they can get higher margin for their product. Okay, so if you're buying frozen meat or if you're buying meat in general, look for the highest percentage of meat and look for nothing but the pure meat that's in it. Okay, sidebar, but important one. Okay, so that's 20%. So if you ate chicken all day, literally, you would only be able to eat about maybe 1,200 calories total, and you would be full all day long. Okay. Now, obviously, no one's going to do that, okay? So let's say, for example, that this same chicken breast now is in a chicken Caesar salad at a restaurant, okay? So you get a full plate of, like a full dinner-size chicken Caesar salad on a restaurant menu. Most restaurant menus now, if they have more than, I forget exactly how many. I think it's if they have more than 20 locations in Canada. It might be different in the US. They have to include calorie information. It might be 50 locations, but anyways, they have to include calorie information on their menu. So you can always see total number of calories in any dish that you're ordering, and you can easily look up, especially if it's a chain, how much protein is in it as well. So, for example, if it's chicken Caesar salad now, let's say that chicken Caesar salad is like 750 calories, okay? So the protein content of that salad is largely going to be the exact same as a plain chicken breast, okay? Because lettuce has no protein in it. Croutons have very little protein in it. You've got some bacon on it, so you may have a few more grams of protein there. And then you've got some Parmesan cheese, so you may have a few more grams of protein there. Okay, so on a typical, say, chicken Caesar salad, you may, instead of having 22 grams of protein from the chicken, you may end up with somewhere around, 28 or 30, okay? So let's say it's a 30-gram protein serving, and now it's a 750 calorie salad is the total meal. So knowing that chicken is the bulk of the protein, you can still look at what the ratio is for the entire meal, and in that instance, it's 4%. So if you ate everything at 4% all day long, and you wanted to consume 150 grams of protein, which is a gram of protein per body weight for someone like me, then, oops, I did that the wrong way, 150 divided by 0.04, you're going to way overeat, okay? You're going to eat 3,750 calories. Now, some people burn that many calories, especially if you are very tall, you're very heavy, or you're very active. But me personally, if I lift weights, lift heavy, and I do about a 5K run, and I go about my day and get about 15,000 steps, I'm still only burning about 3,000, maybe 3,200 calories on a good day. So that would be overeating for me. You can't eat chicken Caesar salads all day long and expect to get enough protein and not overeat, okay? Again, I'll mention the protein benchmark is what will make you feel full. So that's why I aim for protein first. Make sure I keep my ratio above 7.5% to begin my day, so that by the time I get to 150 grams of protein, which is what I want personally, I'm full and I don't want to snack. That's the goal with doing these ratios, okay? So let's go back in here and let's say, for example, chicken wings. Let's do something other than chicken wings. Let's do like a beef dip. Got homemade. Here's a Moxie's beef dip. I don't know if Moxie's is everywhere. It's pretty popular here. I'm sure many people know about Moxie's. But anyways, it's a chain restaurant. So beef dip, let's throw that in there. So this beef dip is just the sandwich, okay? So that would be no sides. If you throw that in there, you're looking at 57, so this is the second line here because I put that boneless skinless chicken breast in there, 57 grams of protein over 950 total calories. So you do the math simply, and you can do this on your phone obviously, 57 over 950 is 0.06, okay? So it's still not the 7.5% threshold, but you got to keep in mind a beef dip sandwich is like 60% bread, right? So that's why when you're going for burgers or sandwiches or wraps at a restaurant, take a look at where your ratios are of protein to calories, and maybe that's where you want to order, a lettuce bun for the first meal of the day if you're going to have 2 or 3 meals, or maybe you forego the bun altogether and you just eat the meat with some salad on the side, or if you're eating a lot of just plain meat, then a lot of times you can afford to have fries or something like that have very little protein and just empty calories. So start to do that, and you'll notice that not only your satiety levels will stay in check, you won't be as hungry all the time, but you can also make sure that you don't overeat throughout the day. Use MyFitnessPal. I find it an absolute great app. Play around with it. Take a look at what you've eaten for the last week and throw it into MyFitnessPal. See where your ratios play out. You don't need to set goals necessarily. MyFitnessPal is super customizable. All you really need to look at is how many grams of protein am I getting divided by how many calories am I eating, and that will keep you in check, keep you from overeating, and keep you full while also being able to gain or maintain muscle. Now, the one other caveat I will say before I end this episode is that restaurants, and I'll get into sort of restaurant nutrition in a different episode. We'll go through some of the research, some of the studies that have been done, but a lot of restaurants, especially in the US, there is a plus or minus of about 20%. Some restaurants were even as high as 40% on their calories, okay? So don't assume that just because this Moxie's beef dip sandwich says it's 950 calories on the menu, that it will actually be 950 calories, okay? Because plus or minus 20%, it could be 95, so an extra 200 calories. So that could be anywhere from like 750 if the bun was a little bit smaller, they put a lot less meat or cheese on it or whatever they're putting on it, or it could be as high as 1150. Okay, so there's always some caveat when it comes to restaurants, but when you start to learn what are good foods and bad foods for you personally in your diet, you'll start to figure out on any menu, no matter where you go, what's a good thing to eat and what's going to help you move towards your goals and what's going to take you further away from them. Because if you're like me and you live on the road 50, 60, 75% of the time sometimes, if you don't eat well, it affects your performance and it affects the way you feel on a day-to-day basis. We all want to get better here at thriving when we're out of our element, and nutrition is one of the key cornerstones to being able to do that. All right. If you want to learn more, follow me on Instagram at RJ Crate, subscribe to the YouTube channel at The Road Coach, reach out anytime if you have suggestions for episodes, and as always, we'll see you soon. Hope you're thriving out there.